Looking for some digital magic to help you through your week? The Kingdom Report is here for you, covering the latest Disneyland and Disney World news, experiences, and events. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Kingdom Report Live so you never miss an update. And drop a subscribe on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel for new videos every week. Don't miss out. Join this growing community of theme park fans as we aim to connect you to more of what makes you happy. For more information, visit KingdomReportLive.com. And now, back to the magic.
Disney News Talk Live time. Wade for the Kingdom Report hanging out with you once again. How's it going, my friends? I hope you are having yourselves a wonderful weekend. You know, it's always a pleasure to be with you on any day, whether it's bringing you a vlog or coming to you live or being able to share a tweet or a social media post. I'm always interested in what's going on with you, your Disney park experiences. That's why we do this show in particular. This is one of those broadcasts where, you know, we're really focused in on your opinion, your experiences, your Disney park various trips, your various experiences with cast members, and all of the topics that we cover here. It's important to us to get that perspective from you, mainly because this is a venue for it, and we think that if there's ever a moment for you to share your thoughts, it's right now, as Disney Parks is going through a bit of an evolution with all of technology that it's incorporating, with all of the new experiences and attractions that they're bringing online, with all of the upcharge situations going on across the properties, not just domestically, but around the world. So it's very important to get your feedback and hear exactly what you're thinking. That way we can cover topics a little bit better, specifically to add value for you. And then in addition to that, we can also make sure that we are on the right track so that we can try and keep Disney honest. I mean, we're a Disney Parks fandom that loves what they do for the most part, and they sometimes slip up, they sometimes mess up. So always interested in hearing your feedback and hearing your thoughts, and definitely holding feet to the fire when they need to be. But to start things out, I did have a question for everybody. If you are a fan of staying at Walt Disney World or Disneyland, this is something I've always been interested in, just because there's always possibilities out there as to new places to stay, new locations to enjoy that might be a little cheaper, and you still get a lot of bang for your buck. But first question I wanted to throw out to everybody today before we dive into the news, and we do have a lot to cover. Holiday highlights and entertainment coming to Walt Disney World this year. They've announced a whole plethora of things that are coming online here very shortly. Jelly Rolls over at the Boardwalk is coming back. I'm thrilled to see that. We also have a surprise guest that showed up at EPCOT earlier this week to surprise all of the visitors there with not only a song, but to introduce himself as sort of a precursor to a certain golden statue that came about for the 50th anniversary. Yes, we are also going to be talking about Disneyland Trams. Yes, we are. So don't you worry. We will be talking about Disneyland Trams and whether or not those suckers are coming back anytime soon. In addition to that, we will also be covering various topics out of Disneyland. Certainly a lot is happening on the West Coast, just as much as happening on the East Coast, including the Monorail having returned this week after a long winter slumber. Ever since the pandemic shut down, we haven't seen the Monorail, and now it is back and allowing guests to enjoy. In addition to that, plenty of other things that we are going to touch on. But as I was going to say, I wanted to gauge whether or not you stay in any certain place when you visit Walt Disney World or Disneyland. And I think this is a great question to start out with, just because sometimes for my own selfishness, I like to know about new places to stay. I like to know about, the secret hideaways. So you tell me, when you visit Walt Disney World or Disneyland, do you stay at a Disney hotel or do you stay off-site? And if so, where do you stay? This is for Anaheim. This is for Orlando. If you're a Disney Worlder, that's fine. If you're strictly Disneyland, that's cool too. Do you happen to stay at a Disney hotel? I know Walt Disney World has a lot more to offer in terms of on-site properties, and then Disneyland, just a few in terms of on-site properties, and the majority of people stay off-site. So I'm interested to know in both cases where you end up staying, what adds the most sort of value to your trip. I know that there's a discussion going on right now in the Disney fan community about whether or not the perks really are still valuable in terms of going to Walt Disney World and staying on property, as so much has been rolled back and taken off of the amenities plate, taken off of the perk plate, as they have sort of remolded, I guess is the word, remolded the resort stay experience at Disney World. And so there's less that was offered just even a couple years ago now. So I'm interested to hear if you stay at Disney World, if you must stay on property. There was a large period of time, I got to tell you, where I strictly and only stayed on Disney World property. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I mean, who wants to be outside of the magical bubble? But then as years went on and prices increased, I just couldn't justify it anymore. Just my own personal experience here. It was getting more and more difficult. It was either, plunk down all the money for an additional Disney World trip, a couple of days, I should say, in that trip, or it was stay at a Disney Resort hotel. So it was like stay off site, get a few more days in, or stay at a Disney World Resort hotel and keep that trip to a minimum. I pay full price everywhere I go, and so it's certainly something that definitely makes a difference. And I know that over the last few years, I've done Airbnb just in my own life, and boy, has that worked out to a great degree. You can get some killer deals in the Orlando area on Airbnb. So if you are ever interested in checking out the app and looking for options to stay in and around Walt Disney World, you must look through the Lake Buena Vista. That's how you narrow it down. Look in Lake Buena Vista, Florida, and that's all in and around Walt Disney World. I've been able to stay in suites. I've been able to stay in hotel properties with 2 bedrooms, and I don't need the 2 bedrooms, but I get it cheaper than if I was to stay at Walt Disney World. So why wouldn't I? And they come with even more amenities, and I might take Uber and Lyft into the resort itself. But I've been doing that more lately, and I'll be doing that coming up here very shortly, as a matter of fact, for another trip that I'll be taking. And I think I'm going to document it. I think I'll put it out in vlog form so that everybody can see. I think more people are open to the idea of staying at an Airbnb or an off-site property now more than ever, but definitely interested in what you are thinking. And then when it comes to Disneyland as well, do you front the money for the big 3 hotels? Because there's only 3 at Disneyland Resort. Or do you often stay off-site? Do you Airbnb it? Do you commute? I'd love to know what it is that you do when it comes to Walt Disney World and Disneyland. I also want to chat real quick about, and I wasn't going to talk about it, much like we did last week, we opened the broadcast by talking about how annual pass holders and the new Magic Key program is something that has become, controversial. A lot of people aren't able to book the park days that they want. Disney suddenly opened up a whole new slew of Disneyland, reservation dates. They suddenly opened up a ton of additional reservation dates for various keys and allowed folks to have that opportunity to book now for months in advance. And so they opened up a whole new slew, and then just as fast as it seems that they opened that up, and we were even talking about it last week live as it was happening, things were booking up really quick again after having just opened up a huge new slot base of reservations for everybody. The Orange County Register is reporting that the nightmare scenario of increasingly scarce Magic Key reservations that already has Disneyland annual pass holders concerned has grown worse as weekend reservations have been snapped up through the end of the year. Disneyland ended its former 4-decade-old annual pass program in January during the extended coronavirus closures of the parks, and the new Magic Key annual passes went on sale in late August with prices ranging from $3.99 and that's for the Imagine Key with the most blockout dates, to $13.99 for the Dream Key with no blockout dates. Quote, "The Dream Key is more like a nightmare key," Jane Friday wrote on Instagram. "It's an unbelievable amount of money to spend to have nothing but weekday reservations available," end quote. Last year's closure of the launch of the new Magic Key program are generating strong demand during the always popular limited time fall and winter holiday seasons, according to Disneyland officials. The vast majority of key holders say they are about to get just as much, if not more, access to the parks than they expected when they signed up, according to Disneyland officials. Of course, they would say that. Disneyland is managing attendance by leveraging its theme park reservation system that requires advanced reservations for Magic Key holders and day guests to help provide a great guest experience for all and spread out visitation, according to Disney officials. Magic Key holders reserve dates from a separate theme park reservation inventory and access calendar than regular day visitors, according to Disneyland officials. Key holders can visit either Disneyland or DCA any day their passes are not blocked out and reservations are available, and key holders can make 2, 4, or 6 at a time in a 90-minute window, depending on their pass type. The Magic Key calendar is dynamic and constantly changing, which, as we've covered here, it means unavailable reservations can suddenly become available any time, once again, at any time. And at the time of publication of the article, they say no Magic Key reservations were available on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays or holidays all the way through January the 1st. So we're right back to where we had the issue, last week, just before last week, where we went live with the story as to how this is becoming a nightmare scenario for annual pass holders. We're right back to the very beginning. Everything's booked out for weekends and holidays leading forward. And so, what's really interesting here, too, is on top of that, we're also getting all kinds of concerns from folks leaving comments on our videos, sharing, especially on our Disneyland updates, just how frustrated they have become with how packed the park is all of a sudden. And I got to admit, last week in particular, Disneyland was crazy busy. Probably the busiest I've seen it in many months, as a matter of fact, since first opening, and they were even more restricted then, and that was like the initial crowds. And now here we are all these months later, and what do you know? We're right back to, square one, where it feels busier than ever. We assume at this point that they've increased capacity. They said they were going to towards the end of the year, and we're getting there. So I'm wondering. And then in addition to that, I'm wondering if, on top of it, they are trying to, maybe appease Magic Key holders. So they're letting in even more Magic Key reservations because they see the blowback. At any rate, here we are back in the saddle where now less reservations are available through the end of the year, and the parks feel suffocating once again. So very interesting to say the least. I'm wondering now what the plan is, if Disney's going to flick the switch. We talked to people on the inside here recently, and they said that they had made a mistake, that they probably should have opened up more reservations to begin with, and not gotten to this point. And then it was only after the bad press started to show up that a day later they kind of flicked the switch and switched everything to, suddenly there's now openings across the board for months. But now all those are filled again. So the parks are packed apparently. Everybody's feeling it. I certainly have been feeling it during the updates recently. And then in addition to that, there is no Fast Pass right now, right? We're waiting for the Genie Plus service, so that's coming. But there's no Fast Pass at the moment, so you still got to wait in those lines that are 45 minutes, sometimes 75 minutes, even I saw on my most recent trip. These things happen, and now because of these circumstances, we are in the thick of it. And until the Genie Plus service arrives and allows people the opportunity to buy the Lightning Lane option and the privileges, I guess we could call it now, because it's no longer free, Fast Pass, I don't know how it's going to change much. I think we're right now in a very hairy situation, and you've got those bigger Dream Keys that still can't. The very top tier Dream Key, you've got the whole group not able to book what they want, and they paid the most for no blockouts. So just very interested to see what happens next on this front. Like I said, I wasn't even going to talk about it, but we're right back to square one. It's happened again a week later. So I don't know what Disneyland's going to do. It's a great guest dissatisfier. So it makes me wonder, exactly what their plan is next, what's up their sleeve. Like I said, are they going to flick a switch? We're right back to, suddenly there are more openings over the next, 2 months, and suddenly every weekend is available again. We will see, that's for sure. But when it comes to the question that I threw out there for you, if you stay at Disneyland or Walt Disney World, do you stay on site? Are you somebody that stays off site? Douglas is chiming in saying, at Disneyland, I stay at Original Disneyland Hotel, and at Disney World, I stay at the Contemporary or the I believe you mean is it the Caribbean Royal Suites Resort off property? So very cool. I haven't stayed there off-site. I haven't even heard of that off-site. But yeah, Contemporary, certainly one of the most popular of all of the, more deluxe type of accommodations at Walt Disney World. Thank you, Douglas, for sharing. Jamie says, Disney World, we stay on-site always, and Disneyland, I've done both. Very good. Lori Jean says, hoping to stay at Disney's Contemporary maybe next year. I've heard such great things about the Contemporary and sort of the refreshing going on. I've seen a lot of clips. I've seen a lot of things from our own folks out there. I know Garrett Hassel has shown us quite a bit when it comes to how things have been refreshed in that hotel. And things are looking nice. I mean, it's very, bright and beautiful, and lots of beautiful pastel colors and stuff like that. It's just a very soothing type of place to be. We see here from Terry Thompson saying, still waiting for our favorite Candy Cane Reno to finish. Staying at Grand Californian for merriest holiday trip in November. Oh, very cool. Living it up at the Grand Californian. And sometimes we go budget, sometimes we splurge. Well, Terry, that is a great way to live. The Grand Californian, certainly the most deluxe of all of the Disneyland hotels. If you follow the Disneyland in-park updates that I do weekly, I occasionally will drop into the hotels just to give sort of an overview as to if anything's changed. And I got to tell you right now, the Paradise Pier Hotel right across the street from the Grand Californian, it continues to be one of those that I just don't know how people are... I don't know how people are justifying staying there right now. There's nothing going on in that hotel. There's nothing available for people. I mean, it's just it's an unfortunate situation right now of Disney's own doing. There is no food and beverage offerings within the hotel. There's a general store that's open, but, the character dining shut down. The night buffet is shut down. The quick service option is shut down. The bar is shut down. There's nothing really in there. It was already a small hotel to begin with, so when you take those amenities offline, it matters to people. And then in addition to that, they say if you want a meal, if you want a snack, you can mobile order it from downtown Disney. It's $400 to $600 a night to stay there. I just don't know how people are justifying staying there. Your money is much better spent over at the Grand Californian or Disneyland Hotel, where almost everything is open outside of, say, Steakhouse 55 at the Disneyland Hotel. That's for sure. And then we have here from Raw62 saying, staying across the street for my trip in December, saving money because New Year's Eve rates are quite high. Oh, yes. The Christmas season, and some people don't know this, I guess, but the Christmas season in general, that 2-week period between Christmas and New Year's, and even a couple of days after New Year's, that is the most expensive and crowded time in Disney parks. I mean, from coast to coast, that is wall to wall. That is when they routinely have to close the gates because it's so busy. Very uncomfortable in the parks at that time, too, because you just don't know if you leave, if you're going to be able to come back. But good for you. I know that, trying to save that money, especially during that week, is critical because all the hotels in the area, they know, right? They get it. You got to spend the big money in order to book a hotel during that time. So very smart to stay off-site in that regard. And we'll take one more here. Andrea says, has stayed off-site at Walt Disney World, but decided to stay on-site at Coronado. So much better. At Disneyland, I've stayed at the Pier and California hotels, but we mostly stay across the street at a hotel we use a lot. Very good. You know what? And the Coronado Springs has turned out to be one of those I'll call it a deluxe hotel at a moderate price. It has become the go-to hotel. I know for Tyler Crouch, Katrina Manzoni, who you often see on the channel on Kingdom Report Live, that is their go-to now when they go to Walt Disney World. They stay there all the time. The amenities, the property itself, spectacular. And if you take a look at my Walt Disney World in Pandemic series from last year, I stayed there as well last December while everything was even more restricted, and it still was a property that I thought, this is so worth the price. This is such a steal because you're paying a moderate price for a deluxe hotel. I always said that was the last one, but it looks like we got one more, and this comes from Christine. She says, "Hi Wade, normally my family stays off-site hotel to save money for the rooms and for the breakfast meals. Some off-site hotels offer complimentary breakfast, however, that looks. And the last one we stayed at the year before COVID, was the Embassy Suites, and that offered a really nice breakfast. Usually we stayed at Best Western hotels that are near and around both parks. Everyone has a preference. It just depends on how much money does everyone want to spend on food." You know what? Great point. When it comes to spending money on the food, that is quite the costly thing to factor into your budget, no doubt, and absolutely one of those things that if you want to, make it cheaper on the stay, you can spend more on the grub, especially if you want to do your character type breakfasts and your like upcharge, more gourmet cuisine in the parks. That is absolutely something to think about. So Christine, thank you so much for weighing in, and thank you everybody for sharing your thoughts when it comes to where you stay in Disneyland and Walt Disney World. All right, so I told you that we are going to be talking about Disneyland Trams. This has been the bane of people's existence since Disneyland reopened. They have not had a tram service from the Mickey and Friends parking structure up to the main entrance of Disneyland. And, now we are looking at a situation where, because you still got to walk the whole way back and forth, even though the Toy Story parking lot is open with bus service, the tram service remains shut down. And so I am very interested at this point to hear why you all think that the tram service remains shut down. Why is it that this Disneyland tram service is offline? Why is it that it continues to remain completely closed? It's unusual to me that it would have gone this long. The trams are considered to be, all open air. So it's a lot safer in terms of this, sort of... I'm not going to call it post-pandemic, because I understand that we're still in the thick of things and to a certain degree, but we'll call it a measured response pandemic now, because it feels like a lot more things are available. We could do a lot more now, but it's an open air experience where you're not trapped inside like you are in the buses that take you from the Toy Story lot on up to Disneyland Harborside. So why do you think the Disneyland tram service remains shut down? Even at this point, it's October 2021. Why are these trams still offline? Why are you still having to walk from the Mickey and Friends parking structure all the way up to the main entrance of the park? Very fascinated to know what you think the reason is. But we do have this story all about the tram service, and you are not the only ones wondering about what the heck's going on. The following from the Orange County Register writes, Disneyland fans fed up with the dreaded, brutal, and, quote, absolute killer death march back to the parking garages along the tramless tram route after a long day at the Anaheim theme park have found colorful ways to vent their anger and frustration. Many of the social media rants from the diehard mouseheads end in a familiar refrain: when will Disneyland parking lot trams return? Arriving and departing visitors have been huffing and puffing the 2/3 of a mile along the tram route between the Mickey and Friends and Pixar Pals parking garages and the front gates of Disneyland and Disney California Adventure for 7 months now, with no indication of when or if the Disneyland Purgatory will ever end. Disneyland continues to evaluate the return of the Mickey and Friends and Pixar Pals tram service as part of a phased reopening of the resort, according to Disneyland officials. Disneyland asked visitors to walk the tram route starting in mid-March during a Touch of Disney food festival and kept the practice in place when the parks fully reopened with rides in late April, all in the interest of COVID-19 health and safety protocols, encouraging social distancing. Any visit to Disneyland and DCA involves a lot of walking. The tram route is about the same length as the distance from the Disneyland front gate to the back of the park in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. The trek from Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run to Toy Story Midway Mania at the back of DCA is about a mile. BuzzFeed reporter Lorena Epstein walked 11.5 miles and nearly 29,000 steps during a full day at both parks, consuming and burning about 2,500 calories along the way. Visitors arriving at the parking structures on the northwest corner of the theme park resort are sent through the security checkpoint in reverse on the ground floor of Pixar Pals Garage before being funneled along the tram route to parks. Arriving visitors are inclined to be full of energy, excitement, and anticipation for the fun-filled day ahead, unlike departing fans that tend to be tired and ready to go home after a long day filled with adrenaline, sugar, and, of course, crying children. Disneyland has likely kept the monorail closed for the same reasons as the parking lot trams, COVID-19 health and safety crowding concerns. Not operating the trams and monorail also saves on labor and maintenance expenses, a key cost savings consideration for Disneyland after a year-long coronavirus closure of the parks. However, the monorail is now back. Operating the parking trams and monorail amid a pandemic would have been a logistical nightmare with massive lines of complaining visitors waiting to board the capacity-constrained shuttles. The alternative, cramming people into trams and trains, would be a public relations disaster in the era of social media and feed into the narrative that the parks are overcrowded. The lesser of two pandemic-related hassles is to make visitors walk and let them gripe about the long hike. Savvy visitors and annual pass holders have already figured out a way to avoid the long walk to and from the parking garages. The Toy Story surface parking lot on the southeast corner of the resort, which reopened in mid-June. The Toy Story parking lot offers bus transportation to and from the entry esplanade between Disneyland and California Adventure. Security screening at the Toy Story lot during peak hours allows arriving visitors to bypass the Esplanade security station and head straight to the theme park turnstiles. The additional traffic at the Toy Story lot has resulted in longer waits for buses that can stretch to 90 minutes at night after the fireworks end, according to Mice Chat. The result? A, quote, fairly miserable experience at both the parking garages and the Toy Story lot, according to Mice Chat. Desperate folks tired of the arrival and departure hassles have been forced to park at Garden Walk and Anaheim hotels or take rideshare options from their homes or nearby shopping malls. The walk along the tram route typically takes 15 to 20 minutes. Disney vlogger Rachel Cable tackled the, quote, dreaded tram walk in just 11 minutes, passing 13 groups as she speed walked to the parks. Various Disneyland fans have taken to social media to vent their anger and frustration at the continued tramless tram route. The walk back to parking from Disneyland is brutal. Joanna Marie wrote on Twitter, bring the trams back ASAP. The walk back to Mickey and Friends is Disneyland Purgatory, Jennifer Ann of Los Angeles tweeted. Quote, the tramless walk from Mickey and Friends was a death march, close quote, said Eat the Magic vlogger. And not everyone hates the round-trip tram route hike, saying, quote, I hope they never bring the trams back. Strength and conditioning enthusiast Tom Waltz wrote on Twitter, saying, I just did the tram route walk back to Mickey and Friends in 8 minutes. So much faster, close quote. Once again, thank you, Orange County Register, for those words. So once again, what do you think is the reason that Disneyland remains sort of in this holding pattern when it comes to bringing back the parking trams from the garage on up to the main entrance? I asked that here just before the story, and several of you have chimed in already. Dr. Emery says, maybe a labor shortage. I've heard this thrown around a couple different times, and I'm wondering if, because I know that it's been a problem to get Disneyland up and running, and a lot of things were slow to return because of that. And here we are, down the line a couple of months, and certainly a lot of the benefits in the state of California have worn off. A lot of the extras that came to unemployment are no longer there, and so a lot of people are heading back to work in much greater numbers. And so I've wondered that myself. However, I am seeing that a lot of locations that are very much high capacity in terms of cast member need to operate things, I am seeing a lot of high capacity areas completely online right now, where that's not the problem. Now, I know that the recruiting team, the casting team for Disneyland, they are holding a lot of job fairs, and they are definitely, trying to bring a lot of folks back to work that did not return after the entire shutdown period. So it's entirely possible. I just don't know if that's it. It feels like even if it were just a handful of trams at this point, it would still be much more beneficial than having everybody, it just seems like such a guest dissatisfier to have everybody walking that route unnecessarily, back and forth to that main entrance. So thank you, Dr. Emery, for sharing that. Douglas says the trams are a huge necessity for older people who have a hard time walking, and oh my God, they had 412 days when they were closed to get new trams. And we've also heard that rumor that the trams are they're old and they're broken down, and part of the problem is getting them back up and running, and now they got to replace things. And I don't know how much validity there is to that. I've heard that rumor several times. The folks I've spoken with that work in the department have all said that routine maintenance is routine maintenance, and there isn't a whole lot of trouble, that they do have the occasional problem and hiccup, but they run the trams pretty consistently after hours for the sake of keeping them moving, and that even after the long period away, it took a while, but they're finally back up and operating to a more functional standpoint, so they can haul people again. They just don't have the manpower brought online for the sake of running it. So is it a shortage of people, or is it more so a situation where we're seeing that they just are choosing not to put this into effect because, as the story stated, this saves a lot of operational costs. A lot. The parking structure, the parking garage is a tremendous amount of cast members that have to operate that. Whereas the Toy Story parking lot, keep this in mind, all those buses that take you from the Toy Story parking lot on up to Harbor Boulevard, that's outsourced. All those bus drivers, they're not Disney cast members. So, FYI, it makes you wonder, right? If they're only sticking with Toy Story parking to have the bus service because it's just easier on them and might even be a little bit cheaper down the line. All right. We'll take another one here. Christine says, I wonder if Disney is looking into updating their trams from gas to electric. I've heard this said several times. Disney already has a lot of elements pumped into their tram service, their buses, everything that they operate from the trains. They kind of pride themselves on having reusable energy, and they kind of pride themselves on having a lot of environmentally friendly type of equipment that they use for the sake of movement and transportation of people. And I wonder that myself, if they are planning on potentially replacing the trams overall with something that is far more environmentally friendly. This would be the time to do it, I suppose. But at any rate, I wonder if that is something that we will see here in the near future. And I appreciate you chiming in, Christine. Lori Jean says, rats eating those wiring on the trams. I know that is out there as a rumor. We've heard people reference that and share that out there on the internet worlds, and that's something that hasn't been confirmed by anybody at Disney. I've asked about it specifically, if that was something that they thought was, holding the tram service back. As of right now, I'm hearing that that's not the case at all, that it just happens to be a lot of of the vehicles that need to come back online, need people to be trained for them because they don't have all of the people back in action that were drivers. It is also something where they need a lot of folks that have to return for safety protocols because moving people back and forth in open air vehicles can sometimes be, especially in this day and age, problematic. And so everybody needs to be well trained on all of these vehicles, whether you are running the back of the tram and making announcements and monitoring guest behavior, or you are driving, or you are dispatch. There's a lot of training that's involved, and they just haven't even started that yet. But nobody can give me a for sure answer as to why that is, and it's driving me crazy. I want to see why. So thank you, Lori Jean, for sharing that. But as that news hits all of us that trams are still offline, and hopefully we'll see something come back near the holidays, during the busiest time of year. I mean, we certainly know, right, that they are now putting things in effect where we are seeing huge crowds and the parks feel much more impacted by everything in terms of reservations and folks being allowed in, many more for the first time in a long time. So now that more people are coming back to the parks and they want to increase capacity to 100% by the end of the year, I know that we are now in a place where hopefully the trams will be brought back online because you have the sheer demand. You have so many people that would benefit. But speaking of transportation, good news to you, and that is something has in fact returned to get you from point A to point B. Is it the monorail? The following comes to us from the Orange County Register. They write that Disneyland has brought back the monorail after a 19-month pandemic-related hiatus, allowing fans of the futuristic transportation system to once again travel the highway in the sky between the Anaheim theme park and the hotel hub on the west side of the resort. The Disneyland Monorail returned on Friday, October 15th as part of the phased reopening of the theme park resort following a year-long coronavirus closure. The Disneyland Monorail and Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage are among the last major Disneyland attractions that have yet to reopen following the pandemic closure of the park in March 2020. The subs are expected to return in early 2022 after an extensive renovation. The monorail will provide a key alternative to walking the tram route between the parking garages and the parks. The parking trams have not operated since Disneyland and Disney California Adventure reopened in April. You'll need your ticket or annual pass and a theme park reservation to hop on the monorail at the Downtown Disney entrance and bypass the front gate on your way to the Tomorrowland station. A face covering will be required to ride the monorail as part of Disneyland's COVID-19 health and safety rules. The attraction will be open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. during the first week of operation, according to the Disneyland website. A highway in the sky offers aerial views of Tomorrowland and Fantasyland inside Disneyland and a quick peek at Buena Vista Street in Disney California Adventure on its route that includes a downtown Disney stop near the Disneyland Hotel. The monorail debuted in 1959 along with the Matterhorn bobsleds and what is today known as Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage as part of the first wave of e-ticket attractions. At the time, the theme park attraction and transportation system were the first daily operating monorail in the entire Western Hemisphere. U.S. Vice President Richard Nixon helped usher in the e-ticket era of Disneyland on June 14th, 1959, during a day-long celebration that was nationally televised on ABC and hosted by Art Linkletter. The monorail system was envisioned for Tomorrowland with the 1955 debut of Disneyland, but Walt Disney was unsatisfied with the design options at the time. The unique straddle beam track from Germany's Allweg Corporation was the perfect solution. Disney loved the monorail's nearly noiseless operation, delivered thanks to a combination of electric propulsion and rubber wheels on the beam. Disney called the new monorail attraction a prototype of a rapid transit system, which may solve many of the traffic problems of our modern day, close quote, in a May 1959 personal letter to Nixon himself. The trains on the 8/10th mile beamway around Tomorrowland didn't take you anywhere until 1961, when the track length more than doubled to incorporate a Disneyland hotel stop. The track route was diverted in 1994 to accommodate Indiana Jones and in 1999 to make room for Disney California Adventure, Disney Grand Californian Hotel, and the Downtown Disney District. The latest Mark 7 trains first debuted in 2008. Once again, our many thanks to the Orange County Register for that story. The monorails are back, baby. Thrilled to have the highway in the sky having returned to the Disneyland Resort after all this time. And, if one of the excuses was that due to, pandemic restrictions, they couldn't have the monorail in effect, and they still don't have the trams in effect, somebody tell me how that makes sense. Somebody explain that to me. I'd like to know. It just doesn't add up to me. But more importantly, it's time to talk back. Share with me, is the Disneyland monorail something you must ride, or do you take it more as transportation? So when you go on into Disneyland Park, do you make this a must-do attraction? Do you look at it as more of a ride, or are you somebody that has to use it in order to get from Tomorrowland on into downtown Disney? Or if you're staying at the hotels, do you use it as a form of transportation from downtown Disney on into the parks? I know that Walt Disney World and the monorail system out there looked at very differently, right? Looked at entirely differently when it comes to the way things are operated there. It is much more transportation. Very few people look at it as a ride. In terms of an attraction, it's much more of something that you need to get around because of how the place is built. But at Disneyland, you have the gift of sort of having it be more of an attraction, more of a ride type experience, especially since it goes through both parks. Even if you have a one-day, one-park ticket, you're able to see at least a little bit of California Adventure, and you get that bird's eye view of the Grand Californian and see the Disneyland Hotel off in the distance before it drops you at downtown Disney. So is the Disneyland monorail something you must ride, or do you use it as more of a transportation type vehicle? Let us know. Your perspective, as always, does matter. And we are going to be taking those comments and sharing them with the world here right after the break. Disney News Talk Live, thank you so much for being a part of today's broadcast. If you haven't done so already and you think we've earned it, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. And if you aren't subscribed to this channel, you are missing out on so much fun. Make sure that you hit that subscription button. And if you haven't done so, ensure the notification bell is rung. That way, anytime there is an update, you are alerted right away. And you don't have to be out of the loop. It's all our focus to bring you up to date and make sure that you are aware of everything going on at the happiest place on earth and the most magical place on earth. We are here to connect you to more of what makes you happy. That is the goal of the Kingdom Report, and it means so much that you could join us. So I asked you, do you look at the monorail system as more of a ride, or are you somebody that is of the mind that it's transportation, and you think that it's something that you only need to take to get from point A to point B? Well, we have our friend ScanFan. He says, I think it would be cool to pilot the monorail for a few shifts. Amen to that. Make that a dream come true for me. I want to pilot that dang monorail and hit that horn there. Please. That's That is what I want most in my life, I think. Lori Jean says, taking monorail is a transportation to Disneyland Park. Yeah, so you take that monorail as more of transportation, and a lot of people that do. It's certainly something that they look at as an opportunity to get off their feet for a while and then get that bird's eye view on in to Disneyland itself. Very good. Thank you, Lori Jean. And Tinker Shell says, must ride monorail back from eating at Jazz Kitchen. Best views while I relax after a great meal. Oh, that does sound like a dream come true, doesn't it? Oh, very nice. My goodness. Terry says, it's both, especially if you've ever been on a monorail, just like the trains. Fun to experience and a lifesaver at the end of a long day. You know what? I'm now wondering if we're going to see incredible amounts of demand for the Tomorrowland Station monorail to get from there to downtown Disney towards the end of the evening. I think you are going to see that more and more as, the hours go on, because the tram isn't available, and that at least gets you to, the other end of downtown Disney, much closer to the parking garage, or much closer to, the parking spaces hotel side or downtown Disney side. And it does save you having to walk through all of downtown Disney, especially with all the crowds. So I'm wondering if we're going to see that back on up here in the coming weeks, especially as folks now start to realize that the monorail has returned. Lucy chimes in and she says to us, afternoon, Wade and Company. Love tuning in to find out what's new in Disneyland. Happy to see the monorail back in service. I look at it as both a ride and transportation. You know what? So do I. There are some days where I'm like, oh God, it would be so helpful if I could just get moved from this place to the other place, from Disneyland on into, the downtown Disney district. And then there are other times where I'm like, you know what? It's been a long time since I've gotten those epic views. And I love the voiceover that happens in the monorail too. I think that's a lot of fun. So thank you, Lucy. Glad you could be here for the live broadcast. And Douglas says, I love when the monorail has ducks on the tracks because they just lay on the horn until they move. Yes, it's a great takeaway. Absolutely. Very good. All right. And from there, we move into our next story where there is a lot of entertainment that is coming back to Disneyland and the resort itself, and we'll be getting to Walt Disney World news here in just a bit, so stick with us. But the Disneyland Resort is going to be offering up some more live shows and live entertainment very soon. I can't wait. It's been a long time coming. I told you as we gear up for the end of the year, certainly the plan for Disney, at least by the CEO's own admission, is that attendance is going to rise, capacity is going to rise, and therefore they're going to bring more back online for the sake of all the crowds. And so let's dive into it. I can't wait to see all of the entertainment back officially, but until then, we will make do with what is returning soon. The East Bay Times is reporting that Disneyland is taking yet another step toward bringing back live shows and nighttime spectaculars that draw big crowds as part of a phased reopening following the year-long coronavirus closure that so far hasn't included large-scale theatrical entertainment. The Disney Junior Dance Party has returned as of Friday, October 15th to its indoor theater in Hollywoodland at Disney California Adventure after a 19-month hiatus due to the extended pandemic closure of the Anaheim theme park and continuing COVID-19 health and safety concerns. The Disney Junior Dance Party indoor stage show, geared toward preschool and grade school children, features songs, dancing, and theatrical sketches based on Disney Junior television shows with appearances by characters such as Doc McStuffins, Vampirina, Mickey Mouse, and, of course, Minnie Mouse. The returning children's show will be presented in a modified format to allow for physical distancing among visitors and performers. Parents will be seated with their children on the carpeted floor of the indoor theater, a change from previous seating arrangements that had parents sit on bench seats at the back of the theater. The return of Disney Junior Dance Party sets the stage for Disney's Anaheim theme parks to bring back the Royal Theater storytelling show in Fantasyland, larger productions in DCA's Hyperion Theater, and Disneyland's Fantasyland Theater, as well as the Phantasmic and World of Color nighttime spectaculars that have all remained shuttered out of COVID-19 physical distancing concerns since the park reopened. Yeah, don't get me started on World of Color. It's a little bit more than just concerns about physical distancing. We know that based on what we've seen out in that World of Color Bay and how that entire infrastructure has been left completely to die. Fortunately, it's getting fixed right now. But back to the story. Disneyland and DCA have been slow to bring back live entertainment that attracts large crowds out of a continuing social distancing concerns, especially with younger children that are not yet eligible for certain COVID-19 vaccines. DCA used the Disney Junior Indoor Theater when the park reopened for socially distanced character wave and play interactions. The Disney Junior Theater is currently hosting the Mickey's Trick and Treat live show during the Oogie Boogie Bash After Hours Halloween events, with character performances, video projections, and special effects. State guidelines issued when California theme parks were allowed to reopen in April limited live shows and performances to outdoor settings and restricted indoor rides to 15 minutes out of COVID-19 health and safety concerns. Most COVID-19 restrictions ended in June when state officials fully reopened the California economy after more than a year of pandemic lockdowns. Disneyland and California Adventure have taken a slow and measured approach to bringing back live entertainment following the pandemic closures. Socially distanced character wave and play interactions throughout the parks replaced traditional up-close meet and greets with hugs and high fives, while Disney characters also took part in many parade cavalcades along Main Street, USA. Fireworks returned in time for the 4th of July with Mickey's Mix Magic, offering pyrotechnic on weekends and video projections and show lighting and lasers during the week. Throughout the summer, the Dapper Dans, Bootstrappers, Five and Dime, Pearly Band, and other atmosphere entertainment have brought live music back to the parks with smaller acts that attracted smaller crowds. The Frightfully Fun Parade during the Oogie Boogie Bash marked the first time that DCA or Disneyland has hosted a parade since the pandemic shuttered at the Anaheim parks in March of 2020. The Christmas Fantasy Parade will be part of the new Merriest Nights After Hours event at Disneyland in November and December. The return of the Disney Junior Dance Party paves the way for Disneyland to bring back the Royal Theater Storytelling Show in Fantasyland's Fantasy Fair, another small theatrical production geared toward families with young children. The 20-minute outdoor stage shows in the Royal Theater tell witty and fast-paced versions of the Tangled and Beauty and the Beast tales. Disneyland has used Royal Theater as a meet-and-greet location where Cinderella, Rapunzel, Snow White, Mulan, and other Disney princesses strike poses and wave from a distance. The outdoor socially distanced wave and play interactions have replaced indoor meet-and-greet locations at Disneyland and DCA, where Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars characters traditionally greeted visitors for hugs and group photos. Smaller live shows like Disney Junior and Royal Theater, along with indoor character meet and greets, are expected to return to Disneyland and DCA before the large-scale theatrical productions and nighttime spectaculars that draw bigger crowds. The famed Kiss Goodnight that the Fantasmic and World of Color nighttime spectaculars reliably delivered at the California parks on a nightly basis are not expected to return until 2022. Extensive fountain refurbishment work is currently underway on Fantasmic at Disneyland and World of Color at DCA. Don't be surprised if Fantasmic remains dark until next spring. Expect Fantasmic to be back in full swing by May 2022, just in time for the 30th anniversary of the Nighttime Spectacular. And don't expect to see World of Color return to DCA until 2022 either. Oogie Boogie Bash is taking place at DCA through Halloween without the World of Color Villainous show, and there was no mention of World of Color Season of Light for the upcoming Christmas holiday season that runs through early January. And once again, that World of Color, World of Color Bay is in shambles right now, so that thing ain't coming back anytime soon. The story continues by saying, Frozen Live at the Hyperion and Mickey and the Magical Map may never return to the Anaheim theme parks. The casts of both productions have been laid off, leaving both theaters dark. Disney will eventually fill the large theatrical spaces with new shows. The Fantasyland Theater would be the easier of the two in the coronavirus era because it's outdoors and requires lower entertainment production values. The Hyperion will likely be the last Disneyland Resort Theater to raise its curtain. Staging a Broadway-caliber production is costly, from the sets and costumes to the music and performers. We thank East Bay Times for those words. So there you have it. I'm wondering now what is going to replace both Mickey and the Magical Map in Disneyland and Frozen Live at the Hyperion. Two classic shows, two big shows, two very commanding shows. now in a place where potentially they won't come back at all and they're just going to replace them with something new. Fascinating, right? I definitely didn't anticipate that, especially since Frozen Live at the Hyperion, it's not an old show yet. I mean, it hasn't been around a long time like Aladdin was. Remember, Aladdin, musical spectacular, that sucker was around a very long time. And, even got extended out a couple of different times. I remember at one point Toy Story on stage was supposed to replace it, and then we got to the point where that didn't happen because Aladdin was so popular, they just kept Aladdin around. So now it's time to talk back. It is time to share what you think should happen. If they replace Mickey and the Magical Map, what stage show should they do next? What story should they tell? What IP should they tap? Should it be an original story? Should it be something, creative and original? Kind of like Mickey and the Magical Map was. I'll tell you, after I saw Mickey and the Magical Map for the first time, I was like, huh. So it's Phantasmic on stage. Got it. It's kind of a very similar story. To a certain degree. There's less evil going on at Mickey and the Magical Map, but it's very much a Sorcerer's Apprentice type feel that you have in Phantasmic. So at any rate, I've always adored Mickey and the Magical Map. I've always had a great deal of fun attending that show. I know I've taken many friends and family members, and they've even walked away with tears because it's so sentimental and special. But what do you think needs to go in the Fantasyland Theater place if they replace Mickey and the Magical Map? What stage show should they do next? Which characters should they revolve around? Should they tell an original story, or should they tell a story of a film in theme park form, kind of like we have over at Disney's Hollywood Studios with Beauty and the Beast live on stage? Be very interested to hear what you think should end up replacing Mickey and the Magical Map, if indeed that is the direction that they go. Orange County Register kind of makes it seem like that's the plan, where something new is coming not only to the Fantasyland Theater, but also to the Hyperion Theater over at California Adventure. So once again, share your thoughts, get creative, let me know what you think belongs on that stage moving forward. And you stick around, there's plenty more Disney News Talk Live straight ahead.
You're lucky it didn't spot you. Take those turbo lifts and stay out of trouble.
Hey, you're not authorized. Wait, it goes in the prison.
Cover's blown. Find an alternate route. Who picked these two droids anyway?
Fire! Take cover, troops! If anyone's packing a blaster, now's a good time. Ah! The escape pod's just below us! Wait, why are you going up? I said down! Up is bad! Up is real bad!
Disney News Talk Live. Always such a blessing to have you with us on the broadcast. Make sure that thumbs up button is firmly pressed if you think that we've earned it. And if you are a fan of Disney parks, let us know in the comments section. Let us know what your favorite theme park is. We've also been asking you today, specifically when it comes to your Walt Disney World or your Disneyland resort stay. When you visit Disney World or Disneyland, do you stay at a Disney hotel or do you stay off-site? Where do you stay if that's the case? Be very interested to hear, especially with those off-site locations. Are you somebody that gets the Airbnb? Are you somebody that stays at a hotel nearby that nobody knows about and you get a great deal? Let us know, as always, in the comments. Be very interested to hear what you do on your Disney trip. Asked you just before the break here about whether or not there should be something new and exciting that replaces Mickey and the Magical Map. Certainly, as something that the Orange County Register has acknowledged is that them being closed since before the pandemic, we are now in a situation where Disney will likely just do new productions, both in that space at the Fantasyland Theater and then also over at the Hyperion Theater at California Adventure. Lori Jean says, bring back Aladdin. Yep, for Hyperion Theater. I loved it too. It never got old because of the genie. The genie made it absolutely perfect because he could keep up with the times. He could make relevant jokes that, connected to what's going on, in modern day. And that's what I think was the charm of the show, was that the genie could weave in and make it feel fresh every single time. Weave in real relevant things that make it so special. Tinkershell says, I would love to see Aladdin back. Yes, so there's another vote for Aladdin. Absolutely. Like I said, one of those absolute classics. I didn't want to see it go, honestly. I as much as they continue to extend it out, and I know that they were saying like, oh, it's getting old. We need to come up with something new. We need to do something here that's fresh and will bring more audiences in. I don't think that show had much of a problem bringing in crowds even in its last year. That thing was very popular. Daniel says, Disney Play Show, Disney Music, Mickey Mouse Now Places. Yes, yes, yes. And I know that Douglas is, a little bit concerned here about Mickey and the Magical Map. I don't know what can ever replace Magical Map, he says. It's such an awesome show. I agree. I love it too. Dat Parisian King says, Jungle Book live show. Now there's an idea. Very good. Jungle Book live on stage. Imagine the colors. Imagine what they could do, especially with the screens that they have, like over at the Hyperion Theater too, if they were to make that a big spectacular. But I think they'll go much more Broadway style and things that have a lot bigger, more spectacular musical numbers over there. But at the Fantasyland Theater, I think the Jungle Book live show would be very fun. And Lucy says, World of Color is sorely missed. Frozen was an amazing show. They should bring it back. Like I said, it wasn't long in the tooth. It wasn't old by any stretch of the imagination. It was something that continued to draw quite the house. And so I feel like it might be a waste to not bring that show back in some capacity, but it sounds like that's not the direction that they are going. So at any rate, I so appreciate you weighing in, Lucy. And when it comes to places to stay and things to do when you go to Disneyland or Walt Disney World, Palace Adventures says, I stay at Best Western Stovall's Hotel across the street from California Adventure, a short walk to downtown Disney. You know what? I've stayed there myself, as a matter of fact, and there are many times throughout the year you can get a killer rate over at the Best Western Stovall's. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Maggie says, staying directly across the street from the entrance to Disneyland, I saved $1,200 from a stay at the Disneyland Hotel. Yeah, you are going to pay top dollar when it comes to when it comes to the Disneyland Hotel. You're going to pay a small fortune to stay at that place at any of the Disney hotel properties. They can upcharge because, there's only 3, so they can do what they want. But yeah, if you stay at any of the Good Neighbor hotels or the ones across the street, you're probably going to stay in a place that has not quite the same amount of amenities for the most part, but definitely going to save yourself a lot of cash. Edward says, a tip for my Disneyland fans, my Anaheim WorldMark timeshare will be right across the street from the main entrance to the new Disneyland Edition. The property is currently being used for Disneyland cast members parking. You can purchase a WorldMark timeshare and on the secondary market at a very low price. I have a feeling that price will not be low for long. What a great tip. Yes, the WorldMark, I know that timeshare property sits there and is quite popular, and WorldMark by Wyndham is something that towers over that Disneyland parking area, right? Yeah, the Catella cast member lot, as they call it. Very cool. And then I see Tinker Shell chimes in saying, I stay at Parkview and love it. Parkview Inn, been there for a long time, right across the street from the main entrance of Disneyland. And certainly one of those places that you cannot beat. It is closer than the Disneyland Resort hotels. That's for sure. So thank you, Tinker, for sharing. And Lucy says, I used to stay at Paradise Pier, but the lack of food options isn't good, so we stayed off property. Yeah, it was something I said here a little bit earlier at the start of the show. Paradise Pier is just not hitting the marks right now with a $400 to $600 a night stay and having very little in which you can experience inside that hotel at the moment. So I totally get it. And Raw62 says, staying at Fairfield Anaheim on Harbor is saving me $500 a night over the Grand Californian. I stayed there myself. I've got a lot of great memories. I stayed there growing up, even the Fairfield Anaheim just across the street. I can see how not only that would save you some money, but, it's a hop, skip, and a jump away from the main entrance. Pretty cool. Dr. Emery says, the Calypso Cay Resort in Kissimmee, Florida is an excellent resort that gives you more bang for your buck. They give more bang for your buck. They are close to Walmart, and the area is safe. You know what? I believe I've looked into that a couple of different times, as a matter of fact, Dr. Emery, and I just haven't had the opportunity to stay there yet. But it always comes up in my searches when I'm looking in and around the Lake Buena Vista area for places to stay that might be a little bit cheaper. I'm going to have to book that here at some point in the near future. And Alex64 says, Hyatt House Anaheim is the best hotel nearby. Haven't been able to stay there yet. You know what? I'm thinking about doing a series on Anaheim Resort Good Neighbor hotels, because it's pretty mysterious, I think, to a lot of people as to places to stay off property, and these hotels, sometimes they're really well reviewed, sometimes you don't see anything about them, so we might just do that. I'm going to have to stay at the Hyatt House, I think. And I understand that the Westin, as well as a JW Marriott, are also open now in and around the resort, adding to that luxury factor at Disneyland. Very good. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts when it comes to not just what should move on into the Fantasyland Theater over at Disneyland, if indeed Making the Magical Map does not return, but also sharing where you stay when you visit Disneyland or Walt Disney World. And speaking of Walt Disney World, we've got some stories to share with you. In fact, holiday time is coming. Christmas is on its way. And with it is coming a little bit more offerings in terms of the various Christmas options that you can buy into. So what's really cool is that, and we've been saying this here for a while, the equivalent of what was typically Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. They're not doing the Very Merry Christmas Party this year. It's a different version of the Christmas Party. It's an after-hours holiday event. So it's modified from Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. Well, they finally admitted that they're going to be offering some things in addition to what people already bought the ticket for. They're adding now a stage show to the mix, which is so awesome. I was really hoping that they would do this to sweeten the deal, because people are paying a small fortune for these holiday after-hour events if they are choosing to go, and on the surface it just didn't feel like much was being offered on either coast. Disneyland and Disney World, what they were offering for these Christmas events, these after-hour events, it just seemed like a little lackluster. While there was certainly a few more things being offered at Magic Kingdom out in Florida, it just felt like there should be more, especially based on what we've experienced with Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. So let's dive into it. ClickOrlando.com is reporting that as Walt Disney World continues to celebrate the world's most magical celebration for its 50th anniversary, things are about to get even more festive for the holiday season. On Thursday, Disney released its plans, saying guests can expect to see enchanting entertainment and cheerful holiday decor across the resort. Over at Magic Kingdom, the park will be decked out for the holiday season once again. This year, guests can attend the separately ticketed event, Disney Very Merriest After Hours. The 4-hour event begins November 8th and will take place on 24 select nights through December 21st. Tickets start at $169, and guests who purchase those tickets can expect festive food and beverage offerings, holiday enhancements on select attractions, including Monsters and Floor and the Jungle Cruise. A viewing of the special holiday-themed parade, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas Time Parade, 2 fireworks spectaculars, the brand new 50th anniversary fireworks spectacular Disney Enchantment, before the event begins, and followed by Minnie's Wonderful Christmas Time Fireworks. The show features fireworks, projections, and beloved holiday songs. Holiday stage show at Cinderella Castle featuring the Reindeer Wranglers. And on evenings when the Magic Kingdom is not hosting the special event, Cinderella Castle will be given a special holiday projection before turning into a beautiful beacon of magic. The world's greatest holiday festivities are returning to the EPCOT International Festival of the Holidays, this year presented by Advent Health. Beginning on November 26th through December the 30th, guests can celebrate with seasonal entertainment and food and drinks from holiday kitchens around World Showcase. The EPCOT Candlelight Processional is also returning for guests to enjoy this year. Celebrity narrators have been announced, and so far they include Cheetah Rivera, Jodie Benson, Alton Fitzgerald White, Lisa Ling, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Blair Underwood, and Pat Sajak. Spin that wheel. In addition to the Candlelight Processional, other holiday traditions of the world will come to life around World Showcase, including Las Posadas at the Mexican Pavilion, Canadian Holiday Voyagers in the Canadian Pavilion, or Canada Pavilion. Chinese lion dance celebrating the new year in the China Pavilion. A Hanukkah storyteller along the promenade, and delightful holiday storytellers in France, Italy, Japan, Norway, and the United Kingdom. Guests can also wave to Santa Claus as he gets ready for the big day outside the American adventure. At Disney's Hollywood Studios, the terrifying Tower of Terror will transform into a festive and fun holiday surprise during the projection show, Sunset Seasons Greetings. Disney said the famous icon will turn into a Muppets gingerbread house, a Toy Story toy hotel, a snowy corner of Frozen's Arendelle, and a Dickinson Village from Mickey's Christmas Carol. Guests will catch sight of Santa cruising down Hollywood Boulevard in his red convertible during the Santa Claus Merry Motorcade. The attraction, for the first time in forever, a Frozen sing-along celebration, will add a festive finale featuring everyone's favorite snowman, Olaf, and celebratory songs of the season. When the Hollywood Tower of Terror is not projecting Sunset Seasons Greetings, the tower will become a beacon of magic to celebrate the resort's 50th anniversary. Holiday fun also returns to Disney's Animal Kingdom, bringing unique seasonal decor and favorite Disney characters sailing down the Discovery River. Discovery Island will spring to life with a merry menagerie of winter animals realized in the form of life-size artesian sculpted puppets. Reindeer foxes, polar bears, penguins, and more interact with guests, accompanied by serenading musicians as they create a whimsical display and playful atmosphere for guests of all ages to enjoy, Disney described on its blog. Floating down the Disney River, guests will see Santa, Goofy, Chip and Dale, and other Disney character friends bringing their own style and festive flair. When night falls, the Tree of Life will glow as a beacon of magic and will feature a number of holiday and wintry animal stories projected. The Christmas Tree Stroll, presented by Advent Health, is returning this year to Disney Springs. Guests are invited to see elaborately decorated Disney Christmas trees that will be located in the neighborhoods throughout Disney Springs. Of course, a lovely snowfall comes right along with that. Disney said holiday decorations will adorn the shops, and when the sun goes down, Central Florida will see snow showers in town center. We appreciate all these words from clickorlando.com. So a lot of things coming back online for Christmas this year at Walt Disney World Resort. I know, last year I was able to head on out in December for Walt Disney World's sort of modified holiday experience. Last year was definitely a bleak year, to say the least. Very much a world in restricted mode. Everywhere you went, everything you did. I know even last year, it felt like Christmas got stolen from a lot of people just because so much in terms of traditions were gone, and so many things that people normally do during the holidays they either weren't able to do or they couldn't do. And so last year, having gone to Walt Disney World myself during the holiday period to cover it for our series Walt Disney World in Pandemic, which by the way is available here on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel. It was something that I thought was really important to document for, just a historical perspective, because how often is this ever going to happen? And Disney World was so restricted at that time, that things were just not offered in its normal over-the-top merriment and its normal over-the-top magical joy that we usually experience it through. And it was kind of surreal going through Walt Disney World last year and just seeing how little there was being offered. Certainly there was still a lot of Christmas decor, and they did their best to try and do little bursts of fireworks on the castle, but they didn't want people to congregate for a full show, so they didn't do a full show. Just a lot of things were so radically different last December, and it was surreal to me to have even been a part of it, to have even experienced it, and you could feel it, like even with the cast members, even with the other people there, you felt grateful just to be there, you felt grateful just to be surrounded by the magic, but it felt so odd because you knew everything was modified and so much wasn't being offered. So I want to ask, as we march towards the holiday period here, both with Disney parks on each coast, it's a time of year where the Disney parks shine. It's a time of year where the magic gets amplified, as I like to say. So it's something that I love this time of year. I love the magic. I love the joy. But when it comes to Walt Disney World specifically, what do you enjoy the most about Christmas time in Orlando? What do you enjoy the most? Do you have any sort of traditions? Are you somebody that enjoys yourself a little bit of the Magic Kingdom Christmas parties? Are you somebody that has to hit up EPCOT Festival of Holidays? That's one of my favorite things to do, by the way. You go to EPCOT Festival of Holidays, and they're bringing them all back. As I mentioned in the story, you've got the storytellers coming back for each nation. You've got all of the puppeteers coming back that will approach you at Animal Kingdom again, which they had just started here right before the world shut down. That Christmas, they ended up bringing out all those additional characters that approached you outside of the Tree of Life, and there's so much that happens at Walt Disney World. Candlelight as well, and all of the specialty type experiences that you can enjoy, gingerbread houses within the resort hotel environments. There's so much that goes on in Orlando. I'm interested to hear what you enjoy the most about Walt Disney World at Christmas time. Make sure that you leave us a comment. Make sure that you share your thoughts, because that is what Disney News Talk Live is all about. Your experiences, your perspective when it comes to the Disney parks. What do you enjoy the most about Walt Disney World during Christmas time? And we'll be right back. Disney News Talk Live always means the world to us that you could join us, whether you are here live or whether you are somebody who happens to catch us after the fact, and maybe you are watching on demand. We want to thank you for being a part of the broadcast. And remember, even if you aren't with us live and you're giving us this feedback in real time, leave comments down below and let us know if any of these questions relate to you, any of these topics relate to you. As always, we are looking to hear your perspective, because in this day and age, and Disney Parks experiences, your perspective definitely matters. Before the break, we asked, hey, when it comes to Walt Disney World, what are some of your favorite things about the holiday season, especially as more comes back, more returns for this year, especially after last year's sort of modified, curmudgeon, bah humbug version of what Christmas was. What exactly are you amped up about, and do you have any sort of traditions? Edward chimes in saying, I love the huge gingerbread house at the Grand Floridian Resort. Edward, me too. I do the resort hopping whenever I'm there during the holidays to all of the deluxe resorts, because the deluxe resorts are the only ones that have the gingerbread houses. So, you go on over to Beach Club Resort, you go on over to your various spots like the Contemporary, and I do love myself a gingerbread house at the Wilderness Lodge. I think that one is always fun to see, especially, and the gigantic gingerbread house that you could go explore in and basically buy a piece of at the Grand Floridian with that scent is just perfect. They've been trying to provide a bunch of various options when it comes to the Grand Californian, like the West Coast hotels getting involved with the gingerbread house and Christmas. They've been trying to provide some options in recent years to compete. While the Grand doesn't have nearly as much space as a lot of these deluxe hotels do out at Walt Disney World, the Grand Californian that is, they do tend to have at least something of an offering, kind of like this year for Halloween. They are experimenting with a different type of cake that they've set up with Oogie Boogie in their lobby, and he's this gigantic creature within their lobby atmosphere that you can come take pictures with, and completely made out of cake, sugar, and eggs and goodness with butter and all of that. And then, of course, they explore with various gingerbread opportunities as well in their lobby each year. So I wish we had more space here on the West Coast for them to offer up more gingerbread houses like they do at the Grand Floridian, as well as all of the various sites that they have around Walt Disney World where the gingerbread houses and carousels and stuff like that are created. It's one of my favorite things about Disney World during the holidays, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. Thank you, Edward. Tinker says, I simply can't fit everything I love about Christmas at Disneyland in one comment. Gingerbread houses, fireworks, snow, parade, music, etc. Looks like Haunted Mansion Holiday as well. You just, and Small World Holiday, you're right. When it comes to Disneyland and definitely a lot of the offerings that it presents come the holidays, it can't be beat as well. Like I said, both coasts end up having spectacular offerings during the Christmas season. And then it's like you take the magic of a normal Disney park and, they take the magic of what the theme park usually is, and then you amplify that sucker right up, to make it Christmified, and it's even more spectacular. So definitely great things that I love about Disneyland too. So thank you, Tinker, for chiming in. All right, and that isn't it. There's a lot more in terms of what's happening out at Walt Disney World right now. In fact, there's several stories that I want to touch on, so we're going to do that here in a bit of a rapid fire for you so that we're not going to take a huge chunk of your time and not try and make this a mega episode or anything like that. We're going to share with you a couple of stories back to back here. Let's dive in. Our first story comes to us from Blog Mickey. Harmonious is the new nighttime spectacular at EPCOT. The show combines an impressive array of technology in the form of barges out on World Showcase Lagoon and Disney music delivered in unique arrangements. Harmonious replaced the long-running Illuminations Reflections of Earth. With Harmonious, Disney has essentially abandoned the themes of Illuminations and decided to go into a completely new direction. According to Imagineering interviews, that completely new direction was thought up by Disney CEO Bob Chapek. According to Imagineer Steve Davison, who was the creative director for Harmonious, the concept of using Disney music as the focal point for the new show came from none other than the Disney CEO himself. When talking about the concept of Harmonious and how it came to be, Davison said that Chapek said, quote, "Why don't we do a Disney concert? Everyone loves Disney music," close quote. From there, Davison said that he decided to spin that concept to work within the storyline of World Showcase. He said that he would want to hear the concept of a Disney concert play out via the voices, artwork, and cultures of the countries that make up World Showcase at EPCOT. And there you have it. Bob Chapek, the Disney CEO, instrumental in replacing Illuminations, Reflections of Earth with Harmonious. Is that something that makes you proud? Do you think that it's a step up from Illuminations, or are you somebody that feels like perhaps Harmonious is a step back? Let us know. We'd love to hear your perspective. This next story comes to us from laughingplace.com. They say that Anthony Gonzalez, star of Pixar's Coco, made a surprise appearance performing with EPCOT icons and checking out the Hispanic Heritage Latin Month offerings at Walt Disney World. The voice of Miguel from Pixar's Coco, Anthony Gonzalez, stopped by Epcot last week, and while checking out the fun and new additions to the park, also surprised audiences with a performance alongside Mariachi Cobre, performing songs from the film. Gonzalez performed Un Poco Loco, Remember Me, and The World es Mi Familia. While at Walt Disney World, Anthony took full advantage of all the special offerings available during the world's most magical celebration and enjoyed seeing Coco featured across the resort in the new nighttime spectaculars Harmonious at Epcot and Disney Enchantment at Magic Kingdom Park. Gonzalez also got to see, up close and personal, the new Miguel sculpture he announced this summer as part of the Disney Fab 50 character collection. His visit gave him the chance to enjoy Hispanic Heritage Latinx Month and togetherness with his family through Walt Disney World Resort's celebration of, quote, Together We Are Magia. Anthony also got to spend time in an often overlooked experience, the Remember Me exhibit in Epcot's Mexico Pavilion, which celebrates the culture and traditions of Dia de los Muertos. He also mentions a new scene that will be added to Mickey's PhilharMagic at Magic Kingdom Park that will also feature music from Coco, which, by the way, that scene has been live at California Adventures, Mickey's PhilharMagic now for several months. It is fantastic. It steals the show. It's something that I go back and watch every time I'm in the park because I love it that much. No lies, no exaggeration. It is a fantastic compliment to Mickey's PhilharMagic. Songs from Coco like The World es Mi Familia and Remember Me, as well as another Latin favorite, Saludos Amigos, almost steal the show, where they are featured in the new nighttime spectacular Harmonious at Epcot. And from clickorlando.com comes this. They say that the music and good times are returning to Jelly Rolls at Disney's Boardwalk Resort. The dueling piano bar has been closed since March 2020 when Walt Disney World was forced to close its theme parks due to the coronavirus pandemic. The popular night spot for those 21 and older features musical maestros that go head-to-head on twin baby grand pianos. In a Facebook post, Jelly Roll said the entertainment venue will reopen Friday beginning at 7 p.m., and those wanting to enter will be required to pay a $15 cover charge. Just like other areas across Walt Disney World, facial coverings will be required while inside, but can be taken off while guests are seated. And that about does it for this round of Rapid Fire News. Thank you once again to clickorlando.com, Blog Mickey, and Laughing Place. Pretty cool to know that not only was Anthony Gonzalez there to sneak up on guests and be able to share with them a little bit of a concert at the American Gardens Theater, but also to be able to perform with Mariachi Cobre and pose with his statue of Miguel from Coco. That is so awesome. And you know what? I don't know what it is, but recently, like within the last couple months, I've become a much bigger fan of Coco all of a sudden. I recently started listening to the music again. I recently started, referencing the film again. It's so emotional. It's such a beautiful story. And I think what really triggered it was seeing the new Coco scene inside of Mickey's PhilharMagic at California Adventure. And it made me go back to the film and say, I forgot how beautiful this was. And so I started listening to the music again. I started to watch the film again. And I'm just blown away by how great it is. So at any rate, it's something that if you haven't seen, you must go see, and knowing that it's joining the lineup of Mickey's PhilharMagic at Magic Kingdom as well is so cool. It is, like I said, a tremendous compliment to the film overall. And then in addition to that, having Jelly Rolls back. I don't know about you, but Jelly Rolls is one of my favorite places to go hang out at along the boardwalk, especially late night at Walt Disney World. There are a few places that go well into the night, like past midnight, across the Orlando theme park properties there at Disney. And that is one of them where I just adore the fact that I can get the dueling pianos playing things like, 90s sitcom themes, having them compete and play 90s sitcom themes and share, their various talents through their piano playing. The crowd gets rowdy and fun. I've never felt like it was, an overly intrusive environment like some clubs can be. It's still very family friendly, even though it's, a bar type atmosphere and alcohol is being served. It's still on Disney property. It's still a lot of fun. You get a lot of parents in there that are just trying to let their hair down and enjoy a night out. So if you've ever been to Jelly Rolls on the Boardwalk, you got to go out and see it for yourself. It is a tremendous amount of fun. And in my next Disney World trip, I am definitely going to stop by. I've been waiting to hear when it will be reopening, so can't wait to see it myself. And then on top of that, I'd like to know what shows or entertainment you've missed the most. Obviously, certain things returning out at Walt Disney World, things definitely ramping up as we head on into the holiday season. Any sort of shows or entertainment that you are still missing, anything that you would like to see return. As always, very interested in your perspective. And from there, I wanted to touch on a story that got put out by Travel Weekly, and it's essentially grading the 50th anniversary kickoff for Walt Disney World and the things that are being offered. Now, granted, Walt Disney World and the 50th anniversary at the moment is dealing with trying to do things in a coming out of full-scale pandemic craziness atmosphere. They're trying their best to make things happen for everybody while still remaining as safe as possible, but they don't want to necessarily pull back on all the offerings. And I totally understand it. I totally get what they're trying to do. But at any rate, Travel Weekly put this out, and I'm interested in hearing your perspective after this as to what you think. But they write that until 1982, admission to Walt Disney World came with a book of ride tickets with more modest A-ticket rides at one end of the spectrum and the blockbuster e-ticket attractions at the other. Changes that rolled out on October 1st to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Disney World's debut are a bit like that. Some of the enhancements are routine, like costumes, custom name tags, and anniversary cocktails, while others are truly spectacular. So in the spirit of nostalgia the celebrations like this evoke, let's rate some of these latest experiences as if they were ticket book items. He says the Magic Kingdom and EPCOT have new evening fireworks shows that serve as candles on the anniversary birthday cake for the next 18 months. EPCOT's Harmonious is a water-based show on the Central Lagoon in EPCOT's World Showcase section that is themed around new interpretations of Disney movie songs by a multicultural choir of 240 artists from around the world. In addition to fireworks, the 20-minute extravaganza includes colored jets of water shooting from 8 moving mechanical arms surrounding 4 giant LED panels and 1 5-story water curtain, all illuminated. The Magic Kingdom show updates the extravaganza at Cinderella Castle, which has received a makeover for the 50th. Also, for the first time, projections light up the Main Street area leading to the castle, giving visitors crowding its sidewalks their own magic to ogle. Both experiences they consider to be e-tickets. Cinderella Castle itself looks fresh in its new lively of pink, blue, and gold. It is one of 4 park centerpiece attractions, one at each park, that have been improved for the 50th. A C-ticket. I didn't see, he says, the evening fireflies at Animal Kingdom's Tree of Life, nor the Hollywood Tower Hotel illuminations at Disney's Hollywood Studios, but the new light chime on Spaceship Earth at EPCOT is a knockout, which, by the way, we played for you here during one of our breaks. You were able to see that firsthand, especially with that music. It is spectacular. He continues saying, so much so that Disney plans to keep it after the 18-month anniversary observation ends. It is an e-ticket, he rates. He also says several planned improvements to the parks are being folded into the 50th celebration. The most significant is the addition to the France Pavilion at EPCOT. Disney built a whole new street block as an approach to its Remy's Ratatouille Adventure Ride, which originated at Disneyland Paris in 2014. There's also the new La Crêperie de Paris restaurant, which offers both sit-down service and a window for takeout. He rated this a D ticket. Also, at EPCOT, the new Space 2020 restaurant opens September 27th. Its premise is an elevator ride 220 miles into space for an out-of-this-world meal. Quote, there's a lot going on with space tourism, and we think this is what space tourism might look like in the future, Disney spokesman Seth Rose said. He rates it a C ticket. All around the park, from the merchandise to lighting and more, you'll find the 50th anniversary iridescent color scheme, notably in the swirling patterns on Spaceship Earth. Visitors could also sample the iridescent croissant donuts at EPCOT or the iridescent ice cream cone at the Blizzard Beach Water Park. 8 tickets across the board here. And no iridescent crepes, though. That's too bad. And finally, look for 50th large bronze statues, well, they're golden really, of classic and contemporary Disney characters around the 4 parks, such as Bambi with a butterfly on his tail in Animal Kingdom. He rates this B ticket. All right, so with that, and thank you for Travel Weekly sharing that story with us and rating things for the 50th anniversary out at Walt Disney World. With that, I'm interested in hearing what you think when it comes to how Walt Disney World has done, number one, with the marketing, number 2, with the offerings. Now that things have been sort of open and operating since October the 1st for the 50th anniversary, it's time to, hear from you and exactly what you think when it comes to this 50th anniversary celebration. I know that we just ran down the list of things there that might be considered key elements of the 50th anniversary. Certainly there's plenty more to come, right? In 2022, they are opening things like the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction. We still are waiting as to when Tron will hit. And I know that we're looking forward to a lot of additional things that they plan on bringing online eventually. But now it's over to you. Share your feedback with me from what you've seen from Disney since October the 1st. Are you motivated to book a trip for the Walt Disney World 50th anniversary? Do you think that based on what you've seen, what you've heard, how Disney's marketed it to you, is this something that you're going to go out of your way for because you think it's absolutely something you need to experience? It's absolutely something you need to go explore and enjoy yourself. This is where you talk back. It's your perspective, your Disney Parks experience. That is what Disney News Talk Live is all about. From what you've seen from October 1st and knowing what's coming in 2022, are you motivated to book a trip for the Walt Disney World 50th anniversary? Hit us up in our comments section. As always, we would love to hear your perspective. All right, my friends, you stick around. There's plenty more. Disney News Talk Live, straight ahead. Disney News Talk Live. Hey, if you haven't done so already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss a thing. That notification bell needs to be rung in order to be updated anytime there is something new that we throw at you. And for the Walt Disney World 50th anniversary, our own Garrett Hassel, our Florida reporter, is churning out all of the things you need to be aware of, all of the things that you should go take a look at. We are sharing with you here in recent weeks, not just what's going on at Disney's Animal Kingdom with the 50th anniversary statues, and yes, even that Kite Tail show that everybody's talking about, but also he just recently came out with a vlog concerning EPCOT and not only the beacon of magic that Spaceship Earth illuminates into, but in addition to that, also sharing with you the Golden 50th statues in and around EPCOT. And he's got Hollywood Studios coming up next. So all things that you want to check out here on the channel. Of course, Disneyland updates every week for you. In-park updates that we share with you, first-hand knowledge, first-hand updates, so you can see what's going on at the happiest place on Earth, and then always so much more. And by the way, Kingdom Report Live will be back next week in this time slot. We try and divvy it up just for you to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts and your feedback. Your perspective does matter, and these shows are dedicated to that. So I will be returning with my friends Tyler Crouch, Katrina Manzoni, and Garrett Hassel next week for Kingdom Report Live. So you'll get to see us all talking. Our ugly mugs will be presented for you, and together we will share with you some trusted theme park perspective. But before the break, I asked, hey, when it comes to Walt Disney World and the 50th anniversary, are there things that entice you to go? Do you feel motivated to book a trip for the 50th anniversary, especially after we shared that story from Travel Weekly where they sort of rated things on an A through E ticket way? And Palace Adventures says, Harmonious is spectacular with all the lasers, lights, fireworks, projections, and music. Plus, the after show lasts several minutes. You know what? And I'm hearing great things about Harmonious. It's so strange because the initial blowback for a lot of the entertainment for the 50th anniversary seemed to be negative across the board for a variety of reasons. And now I'm hearing much more positive things being said as the weeks go on. So I don't know what happened necessarily. Garrett Hassel, our Florida reporter, not only had some, believe it or not, nice things to say about the Kite Tail show. He didn't pan it by any regard. He said it's actually quite cute if you're there with your family. It's perfect for little kids. He thinks that is exactly what it's driven towards. It's something to make little kids stimulated and excited. But then he said when it comes to Harmonious, he thought it was very heartwarming. He thought it was a fantastic experience, to say the least, and something that he's going to go back to and see time and time again. I do think it's funny. We did report on this story here a little bit earlier that it looks like Harmonious came out of the mind to a certain degree, at least the concept of like a Disney concert on the water, from Disney CEO Bob Chapek, the guy that everybody loves to hate, apparently. And he's the guy that, I guess, spoke to the Imagineering team that is responsible for Spectaculars and was like, hey, we should do Disney concert. People love Disney music. And so, what a visionary. There you have him. Captain Charisma, getting the nighttime spectaculars up and rolling. Way to go, Bob. Anyway, Harmonious is, in fact, spectacular, according to our own reporter. I'll be seeing it here very shortly. I know Tyler and Katrina loved it, too. But I think there will always be a special place in our hearts when it comes to Illuminations. It was around for a very long time, a couple of different versions even, and Illuminations was very special, to say the least. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. ScanFan Ed happens to say, wonder if Bob Chapek has ever done the walk to and from the parking structure. I'm going to go ahead and say probably never. Yeah, he probably has never experienced that himself. No doubt about it. Yeah, those executives, they get driven right up through the backstage areas to the nearest entry point into the park, and then they are set and ready to go. So outside of that, if they're staying at the resort, I know they stay VIP presidential suites at the Grand Californian Hotel, and they usually walk on in through the grand entrance on into California Adventures. So I don't think he's ever done that walk, so he probably doesn't know what guests are experiencing in that regard. I mean, I can't say for sure. Maybe he has, but find that highly doubtful. Yeah, definitely so. All right. And then taking a look here at some of your other comments. Let's see. Richard says, we are going next Christmas to Walt Disney World. The additional 50th anniversary editions are nice, but newer attractions are the bigger draw. I completely agree. And I think that when it comes down to what people are like waiting for in terms of what will draw them back to Walt Disney World for the 50th, I I agree. I mean, especially if you're bringing a family, you're spending a small fortune, right? And a lot of people can only afford a once-a-year trip anyway. And so you're probably holding out for those bigger attractions. Those things are indeed the draw. Those things are indeed the things that will, I think, have families plan their trips around. No doubt they are holding out for creating, I guess, a more centered marketing campaign around the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction at EPCOT, and I'm sure that they are going to hold on to the Tron light cycle run to form a complete marketing campaign around as well. I'm just kind of surprised, guys, that when it comes to Disney World's 50th marketing campaign, it just feels like very little of it is based on nostalgia. And this is one of those anniversaries where it's like, wouldn't this be where you would go all in on nostalgia, the 50th? I mean, Disneyland's 50th was dripping in nostalgia. And I get it that Disneyland has a much closer story to Walt himself, and I think the story for Disneyland is much sexier than the story for Walt Disney World, right? Walt died before Disney World got built. Roy had to step in. It didn't end up being exactly what Walt wanted in the end, especially with EPCOT. All of these things make for a much more convoluted story. It's not as easy to share as it is, say, Disneyland's. But Walt Disney World's story, I think, is very important and something that they don't touch on enough, especially for what a hero Roy Disney became after Walt's passing and stepping up to the plate. He pushed off his retirement just to open Walt Disney World, and I think they just missed the mark this year when it comes to creating a 50th anniversary that at least touches on the nostalgia. I even remember some comments here a couple weeks ago when we did our Walt Disney World Kingdom Report live special. We had a couple of clips and a couple of things that paid homage to Roy, and Julie Andrews, spoke that, and we played that segment from the Disney World special, and she sang from the opening special. We played that, and they were just sort of little hallmarks of Walt Disney World's history. And I can't tell you the amount of comments, the amount of feedback we received regarding how we paid more tribute to Disney World's nostalgia and history than Disney did for the 50th anniversary. Our little corner of the internet, our tiny little show ended up paying more of a tribute than Walt Disney World itself did to its own history, which, based on everything that I've seen, seems to be the case, unfortunately. And like I said, there's a tremendous history there that I think Disney is just not touching on the right way, and perhaps they're missing the mark. But I totally agree, Richard. Thank you for sharing your thoughts going next year for Christmas to Walt Disney World. And definitely those attractions will draw you in. Tinker says, I'm not motivated yet for a Walt Disney World trip, but maybe November 2022. I really do hope they keep the beautiful light show on Spaceship Earth. They said they will. So according to the Travel Weekly story there, it sounds like those are going to be kept around. That's great news. I'm thrilled. As I mentioned, we played it here a little bit earlier as part of one of our breaks, so you got to see basically one of the shows almost the full way through, and it's captivating, right? It's just over the top. It's inspiring. I remember when I was watching it for the first time after our Walt Disney World reporter had sent it into the editing center, and I was watching it firsthand, and I could even hear him saying several times in the video he recorded, wow, whoa, because it's so captivating, right? Mixed with the music, that lighting, oh my gosh. Who would have thought that a simple lighting effect, paired with some musical tunes would be so spectacular. But I appreciate you, Tinker, for weighing in. Tiki Room says, if I didn't live in Florida, I wouldn't go until there were more new attractions and shows to experience. As a resident, it's a car ride away, annual pass, and a stay at our DVC resort. Going to EPCOT Friday. Well, look at you. That must be nice, being able to drop on into EPCOT. How nice. But yeah, I think you raise a great point here that, when it comes down to it, if there aren't any sort of new attractions or shows, you probably visit more, right? So I think that I think Disney World is trying to, at least it looks like this. I could be wrong here, but it feels like they're trying to add on to the parks that they do have. They're trying to enhance the parks that they do have. I mean, I really hope that EPCOT gets its act together here pretty quick. There's so much construction going on. It's a very hard park to enjoy and navigate just for the sake of all the construction that has been happening. I'm grateful that Remy's Ratatouille Adventure has finally opened up. At least we have that. But to know that Future World still is just like behind walls for the most part, it creates a very unpleasant environment, and I know that it's a bit of a headache for some people. So I know that they're trying to add things into the parks to enhance what they do have already. I've also seen some comments recently that some people are like, it'd be nice to see a fifth park be announced, or nice to see something come along that will intrigue us and bring us in, and offer up something new and fresh. And it's like, yeah, I agree, but let's focus on what needs to be fixed first in the current parks, what needs to be enhanced and also elevated in the current parks. There's a lot that still needs to be brought back entertainment-wise, shows, atmosphere, you name it. They've been taking these small strides here and there for the last couple months, but let's do that first. Tiki Room, I so appreciate you taking time out of your day to share your comments with us. Richard also chimes in saying that glad Candlelight is back and hoping for the storytellers too for next year. Yeah, you know what? It's my favorite part of EPCOT during the holidays, not just Candlelight, but the storytellers around World Showcase in the various nations. It is something that is so much, I get so much out of it, right? Like I spend all this time out of my day running from country to country just to hear the story of their Christmas, just to hear the storytellers and all the different Santas in the various locations. I find it fascinating. And, it's the shortest of all of the festivals at EPCOT. So there it is. It's one of those things that, like, you got to get in there in the tight window that it has. It's not like the Food and Wine Festival that goes on for 8 months or whatever it is. Yeah, it feels like most of the year, doesn't it? Tinker says, love your humorous sarcasm. Wait, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know the meaning of humor or sarcasm. Edward says, could they announce a new Matterhorn and Indiana Jones ride at the Magic Kingdom for the 50th year celebration? I'll tell you what, I don't see either of that happening at Magic Kingdom. However, I do continue to see a lot of people talking about whether or not it would be worth making over Animal Kingdom's Dinoland USA into an Indiana Jones themed area, especially since there's another film coming out here soon. In fact, Harrison Ford is filming right now in Italy, the next installment of Indiana Jones. So at any rate, could the dinosaur ride be made over, because it is the exact same track, it is the exact same concept as Indiana Jones, but with dinosaurs? Could Dinoland USA become an Indiana Jones themed area? I don't know. It might be, especially now that they are demolishing Primeval Whirl. Entirely possible. And as far as like the Matterhorn goes, or an equivalent of that inside of another park out east, maybe bringing something like that to World Showcase. I know that Switzerland, it does not exist in World Showcase, but perhaps bringing along, a mountain, because I know that there were some other plans for EPCOT, right? Way back when, there were some plans to bring a, I think it was in Japan, wasn't it Mount Fuji? Like I think that was the plan. They were going to build like a Mount Fuji, and then there was a couple of different plans. Like I think Israel was going to be developed at one point as a country in World Showcase. So there's just a lot of opportunities still within World Showcase to build on and create something extra and enhance the countries that are already there, and enhance capacity for EPCOT. Adding ride capacity to a park that doesn't have a ton of rides, I think is very important. And they're taking a step in that right direction with Remy and the Ratatouille Adventure. Certainly with the retheme of Maelstrom into Frozen over in Norway. You've got your fun experience over in Mexico with Donald and the Three Caballeros. Love them. But adding some more attractions to the back of World Showcase, or I guess to the middle of World Showcase is more accurate. I think that would be really cool. I think Germany was also supposed to have at one point a boat ride. And that was the initial plan, and then they just ended up folding it, last minute. So lots of opportunities there to create in that space already. Disney Chick says, are all dining reservations completely booked at Disneyland? Times appear, but nothing actually is available. I booked something, as a matter of fact, today for a couple days from now, and it popped up last minute for Carnation Cafe. So I'll be going to Carnation Cafe for the first time since it has reopened. So yes, they are available, Disney Chick. It's just something that they come few and far between. Everybody's booking them up because the parks are packed and everybody's coming back, as we were talking about a little bit earlier in the broadcast when it comes to the Disney Magic Key program. Lots of people are complaining that they don't have enough reservation availability to come in on weekends, even though weekends and weekdays now are completely packed, or so it seems, and now wait times are through the roof. But when it comes to the reservations for dining, if you're looking for specifics, things like your Blue Bayou, for example, almost impossible to get. So I'll tell you that right off the bat. Very, very difficult to get. The one piece of advice that I like to share often is they dump reservations, guests do. They dump reservations about 24 hours in advance of their trip, of their specific visiting day, because they get charged a fee if they don't dump it within 24 hours, right? So if the calendar day rolls around and they come on in for a Disneyland day and they miss their reservation and they haven't canceled it, they get charged $10 a head for not making that reservation. So typically you'll see a large dump of reservations the night before a park day. So that's the best thing I can tell you in terms of getting the dining reservation that you want. It's always worked for me. Sometimes I just check randomly throughout the day if I know I'm going to be there soon, just to see what's available. And sometimes I get lucky. Sometimes something will open up and I'll go ahead and grab it. So I haven't had the problem of it of times appearing but not being available. I know that things get booked out really fast when times do become available, especially if it's a popular restaurant. So that happens occasionally too, where you might see it reflected on your Disneyland app, but then you go to select it, somebody's already taken it. So it does happen. Just keep the faith and good luck to you in your dining quest. Terry says, Roy spent his remaining life completing his little brother's dream project. Admire him for his quiet, lifelong support of Walt's genius. I couldn't agree more, Terry. Terry, thank you for sharing that. Roy Disney is somebody that is the, we'll just call it the silent partner in the Walt Disney Company and our favorite parks being created, from Disneyland and financing it all to Walt Disney World's final days of construction and opening. We are very fortunate to have had Roy Disney see it all through, and without him, things would not be what they are today. So very grateful for that, and thank you, Terry, for reminding us of that magic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, it has been so much fun hanging with you today. Hopefully you've enjoyed yourself and we brought a little bit of value to you with all the Disney Parks news from coast to coast. As always, if you are watching on demand after the live broadcast, leave some comments down below. Let us know what stories resonate with you, and if any of the questions and prompts that we've thrown out at you matter, well, share your thoughts, share your perspective with us. It means so much to be a part of your life week to week. And again, we are back with you next week for Kingdom Report Live. Tyler Crouch, Katrina Manzoni, Garrett Hassel, myself, all coming to you live next week from the studio, sharing with you the magic of Disney parks from coast to coast. And if you haven't done so already, drop us a subscribe or a thumbs up. It means the world to us to know that we could bring you any sort of content that would be valuable in your park week and in your Disney loving life. It means an awful lot. At any rate, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. We will see you next time for another installment of Disney News Talk Live. And remember, the legacy of Walt Disney, well, it lives on because of people like you and me. For the Kingdom Report, I'm Wade Heath.